Where do I begin? Welcome back to another RGTV video. This is not a video I wanted to film, not a video that I'm looking forward to talking about, but it felt like something had to be said following last night's result. As I'm assuming you all saw, Sounders fall to San Diego 3-0 on a terrible performance on the road in San Diego. The attack is, I guess that's where I'm going to start. It was awful. It just felt like throughout the whole game, half chance after half chance, but it didn't feel like there was any real creativity in the team. And that just feels like kinda how this roster is built at this point. I was definitely optimistic going into the season, and my optimism is really starting to fade. I understand that we have injuries, like, okay, Morris is out, De La Vega could only play for a little bit, but at the end of the day, that's why you have to build a strong roster, right? You gotta have options off the bench in case of something like a Morris injury, which we've seen in the past happen. And I, don't get me wrong, have been the biggest supporter of Morris on this channel. I've been the biggest supporter of how this roster has been built on this channel. And I'm very quickly starting to lose optimism. We have 1 win from 7 games so far and 8 goals scored, and that was on display last night. It felt like even in possession, even when we felt like we were kinda dominating the game, it never felt like we were actually threatening to score a goal. I was never watching that game last night thinking, "We have a guy who's gonna score a goal." Rusnak, yeah, like, he might have made some chances, but he just feels like one of those players right now who the San Jose game, he played out of his mind, I will give him that, but he sorta needs another guy to help, right? He can't be this focal point of the attack, and the way that we are stuck right now, it feels like he kinda has to be when he's not creating, we're not creating. We saw that in that San Jose game, and sadly, we saw it last night. And what's even more concerning for me is the Sounders over the past couple of years, we've had a rocky attack. We've been inconsistent going forward, but we've been able to make playoff runs. We've been able to make the playoffs off the back of our strong defensive performances. And last night, especially, you just saw so many non-veteran mistakes out of a heavily veteran team. We've talked so much about the Sounders raising their floor. All the signings we made is about raising the floor. Okay, our ceiling might be locked in, but we know what at a baseline to expect. And last night put on display us not living up to those standards. The first goal we saw Roldan jumping at a fake cross, something I'd expect out of a Reed Baker Whiting, out of a Kalani Kosarienzi, not CR7, not Roldan. And then losing our man in the box, simple things with a veteran back line. These problems should not be happening. It felt like last night, the way we were set up, we just didn't have the players to match that system. With that 3 back, it felt like, and as much as we've harped on Nuhu fitting this formation, it felt like he didn't really know what he was doing fully. We saw in that goal him give the ball away. We saw in their counterattack goal for their second how out of position he was, and it sorta just left Reagan and Ymar by themselves on an island. It's how Lozano was able to go in and score. It was just the back line getting too isolated, too overexposed. It kinda just feels like we have a quality roster, don't get me wrong. I loved the Jesus Ferreira signing on a level of an MLS signing. I didn't love it being our marquee signing, but it feels like Jesus Ferreira is a guy, can't play the 9 by himself. Yet we're forced into a situation with our roster build where Jesus Ferreira is expected to play at the 9 by himself. It kinda just feels like we have all these big pieces, and we are just hoping that if they get put in a pot together, something good will come out. But it's so much deeper than that. There has to be a thought process behind all these moves. There has to be a thought process behind the lineup, behind the roster build. And so far throughout this season, it feels like we kind of don't have that. Our attack has looked very, very uninspiring. And it's sort of the same problems we've seen in the years past of if option A and option B aren't on when we go forward, we don't have an option C. We don't have a guy who can make something out of nothing. In years past, we've seen teams, right? When we had Ladero in his prime. Before that, when we had Oba in their prime. Before even that, when we had prime Freddie Montero, you would see those games where we're in a rut. We can't really make anything. Ladero would pull something out of his butt and fricking make a play. You would see Ladero, you would see Oba, you would see a Rui Diaz even when the game needed someone to put the team on their back and make a play, make a goal out of nothing, make a chance out of nothing, it happened. And we don't have that right now. And it's very evident on the road at San Diego yesterday. We needed a star player who, okay, plays not going our way. I'm going to score a big goal. I'm going to put someone in on goal. We did not see that. And even on a level before that, we could see in years past, a guy like Chad Marshall, we were having a bad game. He'd put a big tackle in. He'd make a big play, something to calm the team down. And so we got this. And we have players of that caliber. Ymar defender of the year caliber player, but this year it just feels like we're not seeing that big play. We don't have that big play, big game player right now. And I will admit that is something that I admitted we didn't have, but I wasn't too overly worried about because I thought that we had enough MLS experience in this team to be able to survive, to float, and be able to make even a playoff run or not be one win from 7 games because we have so many guys that have been there and done that. But when you have guys that are meant to be veteran MLS mainstays, raise the floor type of players, not playing up to that level, combined with not having that superstar, make a big play type of guy, 1 win from 7 games, that's kind of what's going to happen. And what's concerning is in previous iterations, let's look back to 2016. We were in a bad spot, obviously. We had to change our coach, but we had the freedom to go bring in a Nico Ladero, and that was able to start our season. Now, we do have some freedom. We have some GAM. We have all of our U22 spots. We don't have that DP spot. And the Sounders, I think, are banking on Ryan Kent to be that guy. And don't get me wrong, I love the Kent signing. Kent has the ability to be that guy. We've seen it at Rangers, especially the ability to make something out of nothing, beat a guy, score a goal on a counterattack that's not expected. He could do that. But having it be such a big risk with a guy like Ryan Kent kind of is us being stuck in the fact that we handcuffed ourselves, not leaving a DP spot open. Not to mention DPs that have injury history, have some problems, and I'm not gonna lie, I was ignorant of it at the start of the season. Cheyenne mentioned it a lot more than me, and I will give him credit for that. But the way the roster was built, we're banking on these DPs to play like DPs. But when there's an injury or when there's inconsistencies, we don't really have that depth. Musovski has not proven it at this level, yet we're relying on him to come in the second half, and he needs to be that workhorse up top. These are sort of the problems that you can see kind of got kicked down the road, assuming, oh, Morris this, Morris that. And I love Jordan Morris, but the problem is he's hurt right now, and we don't have the ability to plug and play, which was supposed to be why this Sounders team is going to be good. It was big deal in the offseason about how deep this roster is, but we're not playing like it at all on both sides of the ball, which is super concerning. You've seen all the MLS juggernauts throughout the eras, the Columbus Crews in the past, the LAFCs, even the Galaxy, you saw them in the MLS Cup. They can lose their big players, and next man up can go in and do a job. And we haven't seen that out of the Sounders this season, which was supposed to be the MO of this squad. We're so deep. Oh, player A ain't getting it done. We'll put someone else in. Rothrock's not playing. Georgie will pick up. All of this, but yet through the start of this season, 7 games, we have not at all. I mentioned those 8 goals. 5 of them came in that LAFC game, a rotated Sounders versus a rotated LAFC. Besides that, very uninspiring, very, very immature going forward from this team. And it's getting so frustrating to watch the same patterns of play with the same outcome, with the same squad. And it's concerning because as we look into the summer window, the Sounders are on a down, and you would expect, oh, they're the Sounders. We're going to go sign someone in the summer. But we're pretty handcuffed in terms of our freedom to go make that signing, to go bring someone in. And so I don't really know how the Sounders are going to get out of this. Morris coming back hopefully will help a lot. I think that the Sounders is going to be pretty reliant on Ryan Kent, which he's supposed to be back in 2 to 3 weeks, which is promising. But it's also a guy we're talking about who hasn't played consistently in a year. So as much as he is a raise your ceiling type of player, his floor is very low. So the Sounders season, I think coming up quick, will decide if this year will be a success or not, because you can only fall so far behind in the standings. You can only make so much of a recovery. And where the Sounders sit right now with this squad, I'm not confident in us being able to dig ourselves out of this hole. Now, I will admit the Sounders are the Sounders. We've been known to always pull it off. We have, besides that year after CCL, we're always in the playoffs. We always find a way. So I don't think it's early enough to say that this season the chalk and it's need to be written off. But I think that it is at a point where we need something to change quick. I don't know if that'll be a Schmetzer changing up the lineup, changing up the tactics, or if that's a Ryan Kent coming in, providing a spark, or if that's a this summer transfer window, we need to hit it out of the park. I would be very disappointed if we don't bring in some sort of striker, whether it be using some of the GAM we have, or whether it be a U22. The scariest part is where we are right now is whoever gets brought in that U22 has great potential to being very heavily relied on and a very crucial point to how this season either goes in a successful or a bad way. In U22 signings, there's opportunity to have a Joveljic type signing where he's your man, and there's also possibility for there to be a type of guy that is on the team for 2 years and he's gone and can't live up to the standard. So, the Sounders are pretty handcuffed in terms of their freedom, and that's the scariest part about this start, is the baseline for what this squad had is not living up to the standard, and that is overemphasizing the problems with this roster build. But anyway, guys, that's my rant on the Sounders so far this season. Leave your comments in below what you think is the problem with the Sounders right now, what you would do to fix it. What's your guys' predictions the rest of this season? And don't forget to join the channel. You want to be a member, you'll get special emojis of a bunch of different players. We're coming out with some member exclusive content, which will be super exciting. And obviously, when we have our lives, you'll be guaranteed to get your questions answered. You'll come up in the chat with some bright colors. It's always fun. As always, leave a like, helps the channel out so much. Hopefully next video is a little happier than this one. But anyway, have a good one.